welcome back to the For a Purpose podcast. My name is Jayden Boyce. Alongside me is John Hinzman. To the left of me is a guest who is the owner of Special Teams U. According to his Instagram bio, he's also a girl dad, and he's also an Instagram dad, whatever that means. But here we are with Kyle Stelter. Nice to have you on the podcast today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We usually like to get this podcast going, backstory, how you got to where you are. Like we said, you're the owner of Special Teams U, so you can explain that a little bit and how you got to that specific spot.
Absolutely. So Special Teams University is my coaching platform to help long snappers pursue whatever level that they want to be at. So I work with high school guys who want to play in college. I work with college guys who want to go pro, and I work with a lot of professional athletes as well who want to improve and keep their jobs and excel at their jobs as well. So basically how I got there was I was a long snapper a little bit in high school. It's not something I enjoyed doing. It was something that I just kind of fell into. And funny enough, when I was in high school, I screwed up on purpose to get pulled because I hated it so much. So one day at practice, I asked my backup, hey, do you want to do the job? And he was like, sure. So I purposefully threw a couple over the holder's head, got yelled at, got pulled, and it was a great day. I didn't have to snap anymore because I had no clue what I was doing. So I could do it, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I think that's kind of where a lot of guys fall into with snapping is they can get the job done, but they don't have a good background of how to do it, what to do to excel. So moving forward, I wanted to play in college, but I was an offensive lineman at 200 pounds in high school in Osceola, Wisconsin. And that just wasn't in my cards. My coaches kind of kept hinting like, you should probably work on your snapping if you want to try that. And in my mind, I'm like, I'll just play linebacker or something. Turns out not a great linebacker. And as I progressed through college, I went to UW Stout and then transferred to River Falls. Tried linebacker, tried tight end, tried a little D end. And eventually they were like, you're good at snapping. Why don't you just do that? So I stuck with that. And eventually my teammates told me, hey, you're pretty good at that. My coaches gave me praise after games for doing well. And, after my college career, I just kind of thought, I don't want to be done playing. And throughout that time too, nobody really helped me with my snapping. So I always was hungry for knowledge. I wanted to know how to get better. What do I have to do to get better? And I would get kind of some obscure coaching cues like, hey, just throw it harder. That wasn't good. Do it better. Nothing that was very like tangible or actionable. It was always just, broad advice. So my biggest goal was, how and why. I wanted to know how and why to get the job done better. So when I went to school at River Falls, I studied physical education. I was studying health education, adapted PE as well. And so during those, trying to get that degree, you take kinesiology and biomechanics. And it was just interesting to me, knowing movement and learning movement. So as I was going through those classes, there's rules to movement that I was learning. And then I'd go to football practice and there was no rules. There was just do it better. So I also was on the track team at River Falls and we had a really good coach who broke down the details of throwing. And so once again, there was another opportunity where it was like, instead of just throwing it harder or better, there was information and drills to go along with that. So that kind of helped develop me into a coach, a more detailed coach. So I guess, throughout the process, learning the why, learning the how, and then being able to explain it. So, throughout the whole process, I started coaching snappers because nobody else was doing it, especially in my area. And it just kind of grew. I got a client locally. They told somebody else that spread. I made a Facebook page. And I think it really started to develop when I had a kid in Texas hit me up on Facebook and he said, hey, do you ever come to Texas to train snappers? And I said, yeah, if you pay for me to come out there. So he did, and I went, and all of a sudden now I traveled to coach. And I started working with college snappers, and it just kind of grew from there. So it was kind of exciting.
Yeah, no, that's I feel like long snapping was that thing like when my freshman year in high school. I mean, that's how you get like on varsity, right? It's like you can find a way to do that, but like the long snappers, like there's so many like just take such pride in that job and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see like certain long snappers like taking pride in their job.
Yeah, and it's definitely developed from just kind of a skill that people did to more people are seeing that there's a path to high school football, to college football, to professional football, and they can take pride in it and work on it and see success with it too, because people are getting paid to do it, not only in the professional levels, but also at the college levels too. So it's really exciting to see.
Mm-hmm.
So you come from Osceola High School. Okay, what year did you graduate from there?
2006.
Okay, so 2006, you hit the stout, right?
Yep.
You got your plan in place, and here we go. What was that like for you? The transition from Osceola High School to stout, to that degree, that level of football for you first.
Yeah. So basically, when I was in high school, the only team that actively recruited me was River Falls. But there was an agriculture school, and I had no interest in agriculture. And me kind of being a dumb high school kid, walked out of that meeting with their business card, ripped it up, and threw it in the garbage. And I was like, I'm never going there. I'm going to Stout because I had some friends going there, and I saw they had a football team, and so that was my plan. But I got there, and they're like, "Hey, you're gonna compete for our starting job." And I showed up day one, and there was like seven other guys that could snap. They were all older. They were all more athletic. They've all had experience doing it, and so I did not play that first year. And after that, I was considering, like, I kind of want to move closer to home. Not that Menominey's too far away from Osceola, but
Right.
River Falls was a little closer. And so I decided to transfer because Coach O'Grady at River Falls had actively recruited me and actually wanted me to be there.
Right.
So I thought that would be a better fit. So I went there, and I also didn't play there my first year because I was not as good as I thought I was. But after, over time, it continued to develop and opportunities arose and kind of shook out from there. But it was definitely a shock going from me being like a captain of the football team to being just the lowest, on the totem pole for my position, as well as just like seniority and being young and underdeveloped.
Yeah. So we talk about that adversity a little bit beforehand, but now you look at that. So, when you're in 2007, 2008, 2009, and that adversity hits, how do you handle that? What's your mindset of like, okay, do I stick this out? Do I not? Do I go somewhere else again? Do I try it? I mean, nowadays with the transfer portal, you could just, hey, 3 months in, like, okay, this wasn't working. Next
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So I think at the time I didn't know what to do or how to go about it because there was no guidance. There was no resources for me. So I actually remember going into the coach's office at UW Stout, and it was his first year there. And he didn't even know me. He just got there, and I had to tell him like, hey, I think I'm going to transfer. And I had no clue if I'd ever play again. I just knew I was going to try to make a move and see how it shook out. But that was kind of a scary moment, not knowing what was ahead, but knowing that I wanted to play and I was gonna put my mind to it and see if I can make it happen.
Sure.
Yeah, no, going back to when you were at Stout in River Falls, you said you were on the track team as well. But explain a little bit of that, what you did in high school on the track team and then also in college.
Yeah, so I did throw in high school as well, but it wasn't anything serious. It was just something I did. I knew I wanted to play sports all year round. I wanted to learn different skills and just be involved in something instead of just playing one or two sports. So I don't think I was that good in high school. I think I made it to the conference meet for our conference, and then when I got to college, the only reason I did track and field is because my roommate was a thrower, and he kept trying to egg me on and be like, "Hey, we need more throwers. Come with us." And I did it in high school, so I thought I'd give it a try. Turns out, in the WIAC, throwing is very competitive.
I was just gonna say that. I'm like, your roommate's telling me like to go like just try that out. I'm like, oh, the YAC throwing is actually like pretty good.
It's pretty intense. And actually, when we'd go to meets, there was throwers from other schools that they would have placed in the Big Ten meet with the distances they were throwing, which is pretty impressive. So, but yeah, it was just I had the opportunity to do it. Instead of just doing the off-season training for football, I was able to um, learn another skill, perform something different, lift differently, just get different experience.
So I feel like when you go out and maybe you're at a grocery store or the mall or something, you can see a big guy and you be like, oh, he's maybe a lineman. You can look at some guy, oh, maybe he's a running back. The size for long snappers, I've never really fully been able to really just get that. Is there certain sports long snappers play? Is there a certain build that you see in them then?
I would say at the high school level, no, they're just going to be a random player on the team. Some of them are linemen, some of them are linebackers, some of them they only snap because that's the only position that they're athletically able to do. When we get to the next level, I would say teams are looking more for like a tight end linebacker build. And at the NFL level, I think that's even exaggerated even more. So I have a handful of clients that are built more like linebackers and actually played linebacker at college or at the college level. So teams are looking more for that athletic build, someone who can run, someone who can cover and tackle. Whereas in college, I think a lot of teams they're finding a guy that's really good at it, and they might not be the best athlete, but they are really good at their craft.
Is there like a certain height then that like has to? be for a long snapper?
Once again, high school and college, not really. That's definitely fluctuating. I would say average in the NFL is probably 6'2" to 6'4", and at probably about 230 to 245 is average. But there's definitely guys that are a little bit above that, and the guys that are a little bit below. But if they're going to be below that height and weight, they're really athletic, and if they're above it, they're strong and can hold their own a little bit better too.
Yeah.
So when you walk out of graduate from River Falls, you walk out the door. What's your mission? Like, what's your plan when you graduate college? I mean, I think you went into college coaching for a little bit, right? Or
Yeah, so I guess when I was in college still, I had finished my playing career and had still had school yet to do because I was going into teaching. So I had student teaching to do. I had some more classes to finish up. During that time, after I'd got done playing, I had become a student coach at River Falls, working with the special teams. I knew I didn't want to be done playing football, so I was also playing semi-pro football for the St. Paul Pioneers over in Minnesota. That was a good experience. Semi-pro is not something I'd ever even heard about before that point, but there was a good opportunity to stay in shape and keep playing the game that I loved. So I did that for a little bit, and then was going to tryouts. So I was finishing school, going to these free agent camps, trying to kind of get myself exposed to that. Was able to lock on with a UFL team at the time. So in 2012, I was able to go out to Sacramento, went to an open tryout, beat out some other Division I long snappers for a chance to become the long snapper for the Sacramento Mountain Lions.
Sure.
So that went really well. They brought me in, so I had to put school on pause. Played for like a 4-game season. So I was out there for like 2 months before they were like, "Hey, we're out of money. We're going to ship you home." So it was a cool experience, and I got some film, which was great. But then after they cut us all, we went home. I finished up, did my student teaching, and just kind of took it from there. But it wasn't until 2014 until I got brought in by the New York Jets to have an opportunity for rookie minicamp. So I got a tryout, and then they brought me back after that tryout too. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't even know like you went through all that. I mean, coming from Stoughton RF, that's pretty impressive. Go back to the UFL.
Mhm.
Never thought I'd have a guest on here who's in the UFL. Never thought that. Explain how that experience was, because I think a lot of people have wondered like what the UFL, what the XFL, what all of that really is like.
Yeah, so I think the UFL that's happening now is not even the same UFL that I played in. So different owners and everything's different. But basically, it was a great opportunity. It was a bunch of players that either had pro experience or was like right on the edge of getting the pro experience. So there was a lot of players on my team that they had just got cut by an NFL team and they were with us there. They put us in a hotel. We lived there. We practiced at Sacramento State College, and then we were, I don't know, it was kind of thrown together is kind of the feel that we had. The coaches were thrown in there. Nobody could really give you answers. Like, what are we doing? Where are we going? When's dinner? Things like that. But once again, I was happy coming from the D3 world to that because they did my laundry. They fed us. I was playing professional football. But one thing that was really interesting is when they brought me in, they're like, "Here's the salary. This is what they're going to pay us." And it was like $1,500 a game. And I'm like, "Sweet. That sounds like a decent amount for me."
Right.
I showed up on day one. They handed me a contract and it was like, "You're a practice squad player. You get $500 a game."
Oh.
And I said, but I'm going to start. And they're like, "Yeah, but you're going to be a practice squad player." And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm going to be on the field, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, well, you either sign this one or we'll find someone else." I'm like, "All right, practice squad it is." Signed it. And I was like, "All right, well, that's fine." But once again, I was getting film. My agent was like, "Yeah, just get the film." He's like, "Don't pay me. Just keep that money." And it was, once again, it was just for the experience. But once we lost 3 games, we went into the 4th game, flew all the way to Virginia from Sacramento. We finally won a game. They're like, "All right, team meeting in the morning." We showed up for the team meeting, and that's when they told us we're out of money. We'll fly back home, and then we'll ship you all back to where you're from.
Nice.
Yeah. But so nowadays, so the XFL and the UFL, it's come and gone. The one that's there now, I've got athletes on most of the teams, which is cool, but everything's kept under wraps. Like, you'll never know. Like, they could come out tomorrow and be like, "Hey, league's over. Sorry, we tried." Because it's happened almost every time they've brought it up. So we're hoping that it stays because it's a good opportunity for these guys to get film and showcase themselves. But I don't know. You never know what happens with these developmental leagues.
Well, they can join the two, the XFL and US,
They did,
and it's
yeah.
like the USFL or something like that. And it seems to be doing all right. Like it's not, the games are on Fox, the players get paid a little more.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, I mean, as we talk all the time, all these people trying to find their purpose. John realized when he, went overseas, like he didn't even want to play basketball at a certain point for you, and you probably have a lot of athletes that go through all this. Like, when is that point where like you and other athletes like realize, okay, like my football career is over, like that part of my life, that chapter's done.
I think for a lot of guys, it's decided for them rather than them deciding it's done. So, as a free agent long snapper specifically, I always tell guys, sometimes you're going to be able to, like, life's happening. You got married, you had kids, you got a job. You might have to just look yourself in the mirror and be like, hey, you know what? This is more important than me continuing my athletic career. And sometimes, they're in control of that. But sometimes it's just like no teams are calling. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's probably time to hang it up. So it's a difficult conversation to have because everybody wants to make it. But the reality of our position is that there's only 32 NFL jobs, and they're not turning over that rapidly. So it's a tough business to crack into.
Mm-hmm.
What is the longevity of a long snapper? I mean, I guess if you're healthy and stuff, what does that usually look like?
I think it definitely ranges, but there's guys that have played for, I want to say like 14, 15 years, and they're just consistent and they keep their jobs for forever, it feels like. And then there's definitely guys that come in and they play for a couple years and then it turns over. So I think it really depends on the staff and what they value in a snapper too. But there's been a couple teams recently who it seems like they bring in a guy and then he declines and they cut him and they bring in a new guy. And I think sometimes it's coaching,
Sure.
and some coaches are adamant that they do things a certain way. And sometimes, it's a tough business. It's very stressful. It's the only position on the field that's expected to be perfect every time. So if a snapper is perceiving that they're not being perfect and they're trying too hard and they're starting to struggle in that regard, it can be tough to rebound from that too.
So going back to special teams, it's special teams new. It's not long snapping. So you work with more than just long snappers, or is it basically just long snappers?
When I first started, I called it Special Teams University because I wanted to include everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working with kickers and punters. But after a certain point, I decided that, I wasn't a kicker and punter. And even though I had been around it and I thought I knew quite a bit, I wasn't passionate about helping those guys out because I wasn't an expert at it. I felt that I had more knowledge on snapping. So the name stuck. I liked the name. I had a logo, wasn't going to change it. And you know what? I was like, in the future, maybe I'll hire a guy that works with kickers and punters. So, it was kind of in the future, I might expand kind of a thought. But no, so right now it's only snappers. I've got coaches that reach out all the time asking like, hey, do you have a kicker that you could recommend? And I tell them, I don't even know any kickers. I wouldn't even know the kicker for Ohio State or
Yeah.
the NFL team down the road. Maybe every once in a while I would, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm so focused on snappers and who they are and where they play and what they need to improve on that I'm just one track mind.
So one of my favorite stories I heard was from Pat McAfee when he got drafted. He was a kicker, but then they were like, "Hey, can you like punt? Can you hold snaps and stuff?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he lied about it. He couldn't hold snaps. So then they sent him to this camp for like 7 days straight to just like learn how to like hold a punt, like
Mhm.
something simple just like that. You wouldn't think it would take that long, but in the NFL, everything's perfect. Has anything like that ever happened for like long snappers? Like, have you ever had like someone get drafted and then like come to you and like have to just work?
Yeah, so actually, one of my more famous clients is Luke Rhodes, who plays for the Indianapolis Colts. He's is an All Pro, Pro Bowler, is the highest paid long snapper in the world right now. But he was a linebacker at William and Mary. Got picked up by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a linebacker. Got released and got picked up by the Colts. And when he got there, I think he was like, you know what, I want to stick. I'll snap. What do you want me to do? Please don't cut me. And so he got a tryout basically, and they said, you know what, you don't suck at that. If you tell us that you're going to keep working on that, we'll get rid of the other guy and give you a shot at the job. So he's like, yeah, cut him. I want a job, so let's do that. And I think it was probably shortly after that he was working out. One of my clients that played at UVA was at the same gym as him and was texting me. He's like, hey, Luke Rhodes is here. Do you want me to talk to him for you? I'm like, who's that? I don't even know who that is. So he put in a good word. Luke sent me some film. I gave him a breakdown of what we, saw and could do. And he was like, hell yeah, let's do this. So I think that was like 9 years ago. And so he got the job. He stuck with it. His first year was snapping to Adam Vinatieri, pretty high pressure, high stress. And Luke was pretty raw at that point still, but, made it through and has had a lot of success. But so that's a really great example. I would say every year I get guys that are tight ends or linebackers that a team will send them to me and be like, hey, we want you to work on this, and we'll work on it. And, at the very least, it's another tool in their toolbox. So it doesn't mean they have to become a snapper, but they can be that emergency guy that if somebody goes down, they can at least get in there and be serviceable.
Well, John, that's what the Ohio State coaches would say to Carson, right? Like, I mean, if anything, like learn how to like long snap because that's something to go back on.
For sure. I have a question. You talked about your Jets when you went to the Jets. What was that like as far as the training camp and the rookie camp and going through that?
Yeah, it was nuts. So, every athlete goes into, the free agency world as, high hopes, low expectations. You're always crossing your fingers. You're always looking at your phone. If somebody's calling, you're like, oh, this could be a team.
Right.
And it just didn't happen. It didn't happen. It had been years. And then all of a sudden I was sitting at home. I think my mom was on the couch taking a work call and my phone rang. It was a New York number. And I was like, okay. So I answered it and it was like, hey, this is so-and-so with the New York Jets. And I popped up and I was pacing back and forth. And my mom's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, it's the Jets. It's the Jets. Like, and she's like, what? She was like standing, like freaking out. And I'm like, I don't even know what the guy said. But I was so excited. I was like, this is awesome. But it was a really cool moment. And they were like, hey, we want to bring you in for a tryout. So they flew me out. I showed up and there was a snapper from Colorado State, Rutgers, and Florida State, and then me from River Falls. And so we get picked up from the airport and they're like, hey, where are you from? Where are you from? And I'm like, you wouldn't know. So don't worry about it. You wouldn't know where it is. But we went in there and I snapped really well. And they ended up keeping me and the guy from Colorado State and brought us back for rookie mini camp. And that was really cool. I remember after our tryout, we were sitting in the locker room and we were all just sitting there quietly. And they were bringing us out in the hallway one by one. And they're like, they brought me out and they were like, we think you did really well. We'd love to bring you back. And I was just like, I don't even know what to say. Like, I promise you, I swear you're just going to be like, thanks for coming. See you later. So once again, that was just an awesome moment. And then going back for rookie mini camp, it was a dream. Like you walk into a facility like that, everything, it's like made of marble. Like there's cool lights. I mean, we don't have that at the Division III level. It's not a cool factor. Right. And you get to a facility like that and you're like, oh my God, this is a whole new level. And I'm here. And you look around and your locker's right next to these famous players that you've watched on TV. And so definitely really cool. So I tried to get as much gear and photos and everything I could out of that experience. At the end, they're like, hey, turn in your shorts, on your way out. And I'm like, I'm not turning these shorts in. These are my badge of honor. Like right. every tryout you go to, if there was a snapper wearing NFL shorts, you knew they were at a camp and they were good.
Right.
So I'm like, no, I'm keeping these guys. Like these are staying with me. And so I wore the wheels off those things. They were at every workout, every snapping thing I ever had after that. So it was a really cool thing.
Are those in a plaque now?
You know what? I don't even know where they're at this point. There's some drawer somewhere. I do got my shirts. They had, custom shirts with a number and your name on the back. Those are still in my closet. So those were definitely a keepsake as well.
So then what year was that for the Jets?
That was 2012.
Was that Fitzpatrick there? Or is that Sanchez still there?
Good question. Once again, I remember, you know what? I forget who there was a receiver there at the time.
Brandon Marshall.
No, it was a white guy. My wife thinks he's very attractive. But I remember like seeing his locker and I had to take a picture of it. And she's like, oh my God, you're right next to Decker.
Oh, Eric Decker.
Eric Decker. Yeah.
Minnesota.
Yeah. So she was like, oh my God, you're right next to Eric Decker's locker. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But yeah,
no,
so
he's next to my locker.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that was kind of a cool experience too. But yeah, I don't remember. I remember that there was a tight end that they brought in that year. And I think out of that rookie mini camp class that they brought in, they only kept that one tight end. Everybody else went home.
Oh, so you can't feel too bad.
No, yeah. So there was a busload of us going back to the airport. And I remember everybody was pissed. They're like, they're cutting us. This is stupid. And they gave us this like goodie bag, a Jets bag with like a shirt, a hat, and some shorts in it or something. And all these guys are like, screw this. Who wants another hat? I'm not taking this. They cut me. I'm like, well, I'll take another hat. Like my brother would want one. My dad will want one. I better take some more hats here. So I think the outlook was different. You know, when we talked at the UFL, people were pissed because the environment wasn't what they thought it should be, and I was happy to be there. The Jets, they cut us. I'm like, oh, that was a cool experience. So definitely the perception of like just what was going on was different from athlete to athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And you must get kids now that they want the coaching, they want the training. It's not like you're going into a high school setting, or you were coaching at Eau Claire, right? For a while
Yes,
at the college.
I was. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I imagine even that was different because you have kids that come in, you're trying to coach with them, work with them, and they're like, "Yeah, I really don't want to do this." It's kind of like, "Yeah, I'm here for a good time,
Yeah.
play a little football."
Yeah, I definitely think when I first started, I was trying to just reach out to every high school team and just get clients. You know, I was trying to work with people, and you'd get brought in by a coach, and he's like, "Here's the guys," and you could tell a lot of people just weren't interested. It's not the cool position.
Right.
They're not passionate about it. They don't really want to do it. But now I'm at the point where the guys that want to get better, they're flying all the way to Wisconsin. They're making an hour and a half drive from the airport to see me. So they want to be there.
Right.
It's very rare that I get a guy who's like maybe his dad wants him to play, and that's why they're there. But I think that's definitely the cool part is now everybody's here because they want to be and they're passionate, and then they'll put in the work to make it happen too.
Yeah, or yeah,
Go ahead. So you had the moment. You were a PHI teacher for what, a half year?
I taught adapted PE for 6 years in Eau Claire.
Okay.
I was coaching the whole time too, but I didn't love teaching as much as I did coaching.
Yeah.
And honestly, the only reason I got into teaching is because that's what everybody said you had to do. You have to be a teacher to be a coach. So I enjoyed teaching. It's just I wasn't my passion as much. So during my teaching career, I was using sick days to coach clients who were coming in on certain days. And during COVID, it was a good opportunity for me to be like, hey, business is going well enough. I think I'm just going to be done teaching and kind of dive right in. It was scary because, you know, with like being a personal trainer or any career like that, if you don't have clients, you don't make money. And
Right.
I've got a family to support. So when I made that leap, it actually gave me more time to put into it, more time to coach, more time to kind of advertise and put thought into it. So it grew a ton just from me spending a little bit more time kind of pursuing that career as well.
Yeah.
So like the difference. So you said you coached 6 years at Eau Claire and
Mhm.
stuff. Explain the difference between doing that and now independently doing your own thing, and like the pros and cons of like each one.
Yeah, so I guess originally my main goal was I wanted to be a special teams coordinator because in my mind, special teams coaches in general, it seems like a stepping stone more than a destination for a lot of coaches. So I was passionate about it. I had a background in it. I was a special teams like assistant or student coach at River Falls, so I had some experience there. I had worked at a high school in Minnesota, at New Hope. And so that was a good opportunity for me just to kind of get experience. We ended up being able to install my kick block scheme where we tied the state record for block kicks in a season.
Jeez.
And the coach didn't let me install it until 3 games in. So we might have been able to break it if we would have done it earlier.
I can tell you still think about that a lot.
Yeah, we were so close. But so either way, I was excited to do that. But once I got to Eau Claire and I spent a couple years there, the whole staff got fired and they didn't bring me back. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to move. I don't want to displace my family. So the private world was just kind of where it fell, and I don't regret that at all because all my buddies that are in the coaching world, they're always moving. Their family lives in one state, they're in another. The hours are crazy. Some are making a lot of money, and some are scraping by. So there's a lot of diversity to what that looks like. But everybody sees, you know, the coaches that are making millions, and they're like, "Well, that sounds awesome."
Mhm.
I'm sure it is, but there's a lot of stress behind it. There's people on your back at all times, and it's just I don't have that. I'm my own boss, and I think I get to control what tomorrow looks like. And so that's the biggest thing I think I take away from that. I just enjoy doing my own thing.
And you love what you do.
Yeah, and I'm passionate about it. I like it. Um, yeah, I get to do what I want every day. So
And you've built your program enough now where people are coming seeking you out.
yeah, I think at first it was way different. I was making calls to coaches and people and just putting myself out there. And now I post online, and most guys see my Instagram or my social media, and they'll reach out to me,
Yeah.
which is great. And I think I've developed to the point where I work with 9 current NFL snappers. I have 7 out of 9 CFL snappers, and then hundreds across college football. So actually, John the other day for Ohio State gave me a shout out in an interview. So little clips like that here and there, I think
Yep.
go a long way. People see that, I may be known as the guy that does the weird stuff, the weird drills using the weird equipment, but we're getting results from it, and it's been taken off, especially in the snapping community.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize how big you actually are. I mean, I went to the one Instagram account. It's like 19,000 followers y'all have.
I'm still shocked that 19,000 people follow long snapping videos. It's weird, but hey, I'll take it.
No, that's like insane if you think about it. So like talk about that then with the whole social media part. I mean, you're pretty big then on that.
Yeah, no clue how I did that. To be honest, I have no background in social media. I just post what I thought looked good. And it's, if you scroll back far enough, you'll see a progression of like crappy phone quality, weird posts, and then it got cleaner and better. Like I'm very like organized and like I want things to look really clean. And so I don't know, it's been a progression and just kind of learning as you go. But you get to a certain point when you grow a social media account and like Instagram will reach out to you and be like, hey, we can help you do this better and give you some best practices to follow. And I've had a couple of those calls. It seems like too much work to like just like put all that emphasis on like when to post and what to post and how long should your post be. I'm just going to post some stuff. And sometimes they blow up and sometimes they don't.
Mhm.
My wife's a photographer and owns her own business too now. And she's posting every day and trying to follow the rules. And she's always pissed that only 100 people saw it. And I'm like, I just threw something up and 5,000 people, looked at it or liked it yesterday. So there's definitely there's probably a science behind it. I don't really know that science though.
Yeah, no.
Talk a little about your wife there as far as that support mechanism.
Yeah.
Because she has to be like, hey, you're gonna step on your own. We got a family. We got this.
Mhm.
Talk about that a little bit. What was her take when you said, hey, I got this dream, I got this vision. What are your thoughts and
Yeah.
how's that work?
So I think she was very supportive through it too. So she was a nurse. She had gone to school for nursing. She was working on the heart floor for a while and decided that she wasn't really enjoying that. So she went to labor and delivery and was having a much better time doing that. But during that whole time, business was growing and she went to UW Madison and was worked in the football office for a while. So she had kind of a background in what a coach's life looks like and things like that. And I think when we were dating, that was when I was getting opportunities with like the New York Jets. So I think she was gold digging a little bit. She was looking for an NFL player, and she got a teacher and a coach at the end of the day. So, but she's been super supportive and just allowed me to kind of chase my dreams. And like even like tomorrow, I'm going to head off to Madison to meet with coaches and watch the spring game and stuff like that. And she's always go do it, go keep expanding, go meet new people, because every opportunity I have to work with a new client or meet a new coach, business grows. And she sees that, and we're building a nice life together here. So it's been great. So
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
How many daughters do you have?
yeah, so I've got 2 daughters. I have a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, and I have a 2-year-old son too. So
Okay.
the Instagram account that you looked at, it doesn't really get used. So I used to be an Instagram dad, a girl dad. Hasn't been updated for a while, but yeah, it basically just posting videos and photos of my family and holding the phone for my wife. Kind of makes you an Instagram dad, right?
I
So
was gonna say if she's a photographer, I mean, you're probably learning a little bit from that.
yeah, and it's funny. I got her a camera, I don't know, probably like 6 years ago as a Christmas gift because she is like, I think I might want to try that. And then she started to do it, and she was pretty good at it. I'm like, you should charge money to do it. And she was scared. I'm like, go do it. Be an entrepreneur, make it happen. And I pushed her to make it happen. So she was able to quit her nursing job to become a photographer, and now business is going well for her too. She's got people hitting her up all the time, and she puts out good work, and it's exciting for both of us in that regard.
Yeah, look at you, husband of the year, getting a birthday or getting a gift, and it somehow goes into a business. Look at
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Well, not intentionally. She did not want to do that. She's like, no, I can't. She doesn't. She absolutely did not want to be a business owner. She liked to be a nurse, and that was what she went to school for. And so I think in her mind, she did not want to make that happen. But I was pretty persistent. I'm like, why wouldn't you not? Like, you're good at it. Go do it. So, but now she really enjoys it, and The only thing I think she doesn't enjoy is the posting every day, like
Mhm.
the constant attention that needs to.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking a little bit earlier about the transfer portal and how kids are switching. And how have you seen that as impact? Obviously, we're still relatively new, about a year and a half into where the transfer portal is kind of like, hey, come and go whenever you go. How have you seen that impact the students you work with, or just different players in general? How have you seen that really change the game?
Yeah, I think it's been good for players and it's been bad for players. I think it can go both ways. So I've had players that have been able to kind of leverage their skills, their abilities, their performance, and move up. And I've also had players where the coaches now have the ability to move on from a kid who they don't perceive as performing as well. So I've definitely seen it go both ways, and I think it's become a lot more competitive at our position. And I think it's kind of a two-way street now where the players, I was excited at first because now they have leverage and they can kind of stand up for themselves, but
Right.
recently it's kind of been the coaches also have that too. So it's kind of scary where you could get cut at any time. And I've have players right now who are on the edge and maybe they were a backup and they're being pushed out and now they got to find a new home when they didn't expect to.
Right.
So kind of a scary situation to be in.
I think the question a lot of people have is, you have other positions where you can be a running back and your stats speak for themselves, the play style speaks for itself, all of that. I think like long snapper, I think a lot of people wonder how. So let's say you're D3 at River Falls, okay? You see the transfer portal. I mean, it doesn't happen with D3 athletes that much, but you're trying to get to that next level and
Mhm.
stuff. How does that film work? How does like getting to that next level work then for a long snapper?
I think for a snapper, there's not a lot of coaches that know what to look for as far as technique or how they're doing it. It's more results based. Did it get there? How fast did it get there? Are you athletic? Can you cover? Do you have tackles? So in that regard, the film kind of just speaks for itself. Uh, so I don't know. I think it can be easy if you're a D3 snapper and you're putting out film that is impressive, and a coach can watch your film next to their current snapper and just obviously be like, "Hey, I think you're better." Then I think they can make a move. And I've had guys go from D3 to D1.
Really?
Actually, one of my snappers went from an FCS school to an FBS and is now moving to another FBS school, and just continues to like level up because he's getting new opportunities. And I think in snapping, there's a lot of late bloomers. Guys go to a school that's as good as they were getting right at the time, and they develop. They learned more. They got in touch, whether it was with me or someone else, or they just got stronger, and then they just developed harder or developed more, and now they're a better snapper. And so now they might be at a higher level and can move up a lot easier.
So then do some of these long snappers then look at these colleges and think more about maybe like wanting to win a national championship or doing good team level wise, or do they look more at how has these like colleges produced maybe NFL talent in some of this?
I think a lot more guys are just looking for playing time more than they're looking for developmental or NFL.
Hmm.
I think when you look at the NFL, there's kind of a diverse level of like where guys played. I would say a good chunk of my snappers that I train currently were FCS linebackers or FCS snappers that were able to make it into the NFL. Um, it does help to be at a bigger school, but I think at the end of the day, like if you're good enough, you can get a shot. Like, and I like to use myself as an example of like, well, I played at a D3 school and I was able to move up. So even if your school isn't producing NFL snappers year after year, if you do the right things, develop, get stronger, get faster, get better at your craft, there could be opportunities. So I think the biggest difference is just that exposure piece. Did you have a good pro day? Did your school have a pro day? And did you have the opportunity to put yourself out there?
Hmm.
I was thinking about high school. Do you deal much with high school athletes yet?
Sometimes, I think I'm so specific and extreme with what I do that I think a lot of times high school kids, they want more of a cheerleader than they want a coach.
Correct.
So they want to be told how good they are. And my biggest compliment to my players, and they'll tell you this too, is if I tell them they don't suck, that means they're doing really well.
Sure.
So some high schoolers, mostly college guys, because they'll get to college and they'll kind of get shot down, or the coach tells them they're not as good as they thought they were, and that's kind of my sweet spot of those guys want to get work now.
Yeah, because you're about 8 to 10 years away before your son gets into the opportunity to do some of the stuff, and then you start seeing, wow, what is high school like nowadays? I have a daughter in high school right now. A lot of times you look at that piece as like, how do you help kids stay focused on the process.
Mhm.
And I'm sure because long snapping has to be a process. And I watch John sometimes go through his warm-ups, and he's so detailed in his warm-up, from the band work to the towels to the slides and all that stuff. And so how do you help um, people that come in and say, hey, this is a process and we have to stick to the process because otherwise everything else can go array?
Yeah, I think it's harder for a high school athlete to understand that it's process oriented versus product oriented,
Right.
rather than those college guys for the reason of they've not really felt that adversity. They've not had competition. They're the one guy on their team that can do it,
Right.
and they're good enough to get it done.
Right.
So, an example I use for a lot of guys is throwing a baseball. We've all seen it. We all can pretty much do it. But if I threw a baseball and I only used my arm and I awkwardly threw it, but it got to my target, does that mean I'm really good at throwing, or did I just accomplish the task? And, okay, so I just accomplished the task. So if I threw like that, you would think I threw kind of weird. But if I stepped and I threw and I looked like a regular baseball player, I'm more efficient, I did it better, and I have a better understanding of how I got that done. So I like to use that example because a lot of snappers are very results oriented. Did I get the ball there? Sure, but you weren't very efficient and you didn't know how you did it. You just threw it. So the more I can get them to understand that, they can start to work on that process versus the product,
Right.
and make strides. Because I think a lot of guys come into it, they just throw it harder, they just do more, they just try to rep it into existence, um, without a good understanding of what they're doing.
Sure.
As a proud University of Green Bay student, John, there's a big thing coming to Green Bay right now. It's called the NFL draft. Not sure if you've ever heard of it.
Absolutely.
How does that process then work for long snappers? Is your time right now super busy, or was it the combine was probably like 3 weeks ago? Or is it more busy then? How is this process right now then for long snappers?
It was definitely busier leading up to pro days and before the combine. Guys were, as soon as the season ended, we were looking at preparing for learning how to snap and block, especially if they've never done that before, refining their technique, getting them ready for any kind of pro day opportunity they might have. But after their pro day, guys are continuing to work at it, but it's a little less frantic. You finish your season. If you've never blocked before, that's one of the biggest things teams are looking at. Can you snap and protect? And it's something that is kind of scary for guys because they've never felt it, they've never done it. It seems like such a hard task to accomplish. But yeah, now it's kind of like there's some players that have got some private workouts, and there were some athletes that got invited to the combine, but it's not super common for a snapper to be drafted. So even historically, the snappers that have been drafted, I don't know if most, but there's a good percentage of snappers that didn't stick. Like they played for 1 or 2 years and then they got cut. Um, so we kind of talk about it as almost being a curse. If you get drafted as a snapper, I don't know if it's the pressure, I don't know if it's the scouting wasn't as great as it could have been, but it seems like a lot of those guys just don't stay as long as they should have if they were drafted. So most snappers make it as undrafted free agents. It takes them a couple years, then they lock on and they take it from there.
So then at the combine and pro days, do they have interviews with teams then, or how does that work?
They do. I think it's a little less intensive for snappers.
Mhm.
It's going to be more so. They're going to watch them snap. Obviously, they'll do their physical testing. But even for snappers, I don't think they're taking it not as seriously. But they don't put as much emphasis on like how many bench reps they did,
Mhm.
or how fast they were. I think it's more of like, did you run under 5 seconds or did you run over 5 seconds for your 40? Did you do like 3 reps at the 225 or did you get 15 to 20? I think that's definitely more of the range they're looking for. But at the end of the day, they're going to watch them snap and move. And if you didn't do too well in the bench press, but you snapped really well and you moved really well, I think that weighs a lot more on these guys.
So how's that work for you then, working with these guys up and coming for their pro days or combine? Do you work with them on like questions they're gonna ask, or is it all just based on like snapping and technique and all that type of stuff?
Yeah, so for the most part, it's mostly skill. That's maybe something we could throw in the future is focusing more on the questions and the interview stuff like that. But to be honest, that's not something I personally had experience with. So, I kind of rely on them getting help from other people that have that experience rather than me trying to be an expert at everything. I tell them this is my forte is your technique, getting you to snap better, to block better, to perform better. The other piece is like, I'm not going to help you with your bench press or your 40. There's other people that are better qualified to do that. So kind of staying in my own lane in that regards. Same thing with like, that's why I don't work with kickers and punters. I have more expertise in snapping. So definitely something that, you kind of need a team behind you. And even my pro athletes that I work with, they've got me, they've got their strength coach, they got somebody that works on their bodies, they got mental performance coaches, they got their guys in every department outside of the facility as well. So that's something that I think a lot of people don't take into account is just the team aspect, not being a part of the team, but you have your own special people that you have outside of that facility as well.
Hmm.
Where do you envision special team U 5 years from now? Where do you see it?
Yeah, honestly, I think what we're doing now is more than what I've ever dreamed of. Is
Really?
kind of I kind of just assumed it would always just be a hobby of mine, just helping guys, doing a regular job, teaching, and just doing this on the side. So just being able to do what I'm doing right now is already kind of a dream come true. Um, but recently, we've been doing more like overseas stuff. We were able to go to Germany last February. I got to speak at the largest football convention in Europe, which was awesome.
Jeez.
Um,
Hmm.
so that was awesome. I'm currently talking to some athletes in China who want to bring me over to coach the long snappers over there.
Wow.
Japan's another option. I go to Canada a little bit too. I work with, like I said, like 7 out of 9 of those CFL snappers. But last year we got to go to a game. I'm not sure if you've ever been to a CFL game.
Mm-mm.
It's way better than I expected it to be. It was so cool. The environment was cool. We got to go to Saskatchewan. Um, awesome stadium. The facilities are like a D1 facility here. And the it's cool. It's fun. There's different rules. There's a lot of movement. And for someone who doesn't know those rules, you're just like, wow, that's cool. You're picking up, different things as you go.
Yeah. And that's one thing I don't think a lot of people realize is the amount of people that are coming from overseas now and are being recruited to play college level football. I mean, the competition is just continues to up and up and up. And if you think you can sit back and wait and it's going to be like, oh, let's show up and play, there's somebody coming all the time to take your spot.
Absolutely. Yeah, the competition level is always growing. I'm growing with my knowledge of what I'm coaching and helping other guys. And I think just in the snapping world, guys are getting more refined. They're understanding their craft more. They're putting more work into it. So in that regard, that it's just growing. But also, I've got guys that come from overseas all the time. I've got guys that fly in from Japan and China and Europe and
Oh,
um, Canada. Where else? I think those are kind of the hot spots right now because they actually have football.
sure.
They have professional football over there, and I think in Europe it's not a high-paying profession, but they fill stadiums. It's a really cool atmosphere, and that's something that we want to go back and check out too. Is some ELF games, which seem awesome as well.
Yeah, I mean, Europeans, they get pretty hyped. They get pretty excited.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely cool.
It's
Yeah.
pretty. So let's say you have a nice little freshman in high school who's looking for some encouragement, some words of wisdom, I should say, on what to do, how to get to that next level. What would you say to them?
Yeah, honestly, I'm always big on just development. I think a lot of high school guys go after chasing stars and exposure before they're ready to be exposed. And I think that's probably the biggest issue with a lot of younger guys. So just continuing to work on their craft, to grow, to play other sports, to hit the weights hard, to take it seriously, but it doesn't have to be their full-time job. I see high school kids sometimes that are so focused that they kind of burn out. And by the time they get to college, they've been snapping every day, they've been training hard every day, and it's not fun for them anymore. So having fun, playing other sports, getting experience, and just becoming a well-rounded athlete. I guess out of the professional athletes I train, they all were multi-athlete or multi-sport athletes who enjoyed their high school career and then they got serious when they got to college. So I think high school kids in general right now, from my experience, there's a lot of coaches that are pushing them to specialize in one sport. And I don't know, I don't really agree with it, but I guess is that, with you having high school age kids, is that
Mhm.
something that you guys see here as well?
I wouldn't say so much in Wisconsin. I'd say Minnesota more so,
Okay.
especially hockey and basketball, AAU and all that stuff, the way it's growing. And it's a challenging time because as a parent, you have young kids, but as a parent, as your kids get older, you kind of get that feeling of I'm leaving my kids out or leaving behind if I don't get involved. And so it's a balance, and I'm with you. I mean, I tell my youngest when I was in high school, try as many sports as you can, figure out what fits. because you have the opportunity to learn from different coaches. And like you said, that the one coach earlier you found is you found somebody who taught you about the how and the why.
Mhm.
And I think that's so important because the how and why is going to carry you through life. Because too often it's like, I call them Google coaches nowadays. Like, let me find a play and let's put this play in. Well, if I don't understand the how and the why, I can run the play, but I don't know really what I'm doing. So it goes back to the whole process, like we talked about. And I really appreciate what you're doing there. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, and even the other day, my wife got an email from my 7-year-old's dance academy, and they want her to become a part of their competitive team. And I said, no, absolutely not. You're 7.
Right.
You're gonna experience different sports. We're not gonna dive full speed into a sport where you got to be there every day of the week for a couple hours every day. I don't have time for that.
Right.
And I just want you to get experience. Like find something that you really like. Dance was like the first thing we've done. So if you love it and that's the sport you end up wanting to go full into, sweet. We'll do that later. But right now, let's try basketball and tennis and hockey and whatever. We'll find some other sports. But I definitely want my kids to be well rounded as much as
Yeah.
they can be.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the hard piece. Again, it's if you get pigeonholed at a young age, and it's kind of like, well, you get to a point where, again, I agree with you, is I see kids in the school I work in now is the burnout. Like they're just tired. It's like, all I do is this. And it's like, okay, you've been doing it for 12 to 15 years and you're only, junior, senior in high school. It's like, that's a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah. We talk about for a purpose, and I can hear in your voice what your purpose is. How do you continue that? And now in knowing that, okay, here's where I'm at, and I know you're expounding on what you're doing, but how do you continue to grow your purpose now within yourself, your family, and the people you serve and you're working with?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is every athlete that I'm able to help gives me kind of a little boost. Like every time I'm able to help someone see a better result or get to a new school or find a new opportunity, that's what really motivates me. And so I'm able to do that professionally, but also, helping my wife quit her day job to do something that she really loves.
Right.
That was motivating for me. Helping my kids, find something that they're really interested in and seeing them enjoy different things. I think that's kind of helping people has always been my purpose. And I even going back to when I was in high school and my mom and my dad were asking me, like, what do you want to do? What are you going to go to college for? I had no clue. I knew I liked helping people. So I thought I maybe want to be a police officer. I maybe want to be a teacher. Maybe I want to do something where I could help people.
Mhm.
And I think this is a great way for me to kind of get all of that, where I get to do something fun. It's a game. But I get that satisfaction of being able to see people have success as well, which is really exciting.
Awesome.
You got any closing questions, John?
I think I'm good right now.
Well, to finish up this podcast, I want to say thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fantastic to have a former NFL player, former UFL player, and a coach for so many. You said 7 NFL players you coach now?
And 9 NFL, 7 CFL,
And counting.
and counting.
It's been fantastic having you on. Thank you for coming
Check
on the
out
podcast.
Special Teams U.
Special Teams, you go there. If you, I guess you probably don't even have to promote it that much. I mean,
Hey, yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate it. It's specialteamsu.com and my social media account. So if they want to check it out, they can find me on that.
Yeah, go there. Thank you guys for listening again. Tune in every Wednesday as we keep pumping out these podcasts. Thank you very much and have a great rest of your day. Oh, good podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. That was fun. Oh.